We've got an insane sports weekend to talk about on today's episode of Carving Up Live. Gonna lead off not with football, but with Game 7 of the World Series, which as far as I'm concerned was an all-time classic, with the Dodgers going back-to-back with a 5-4 win in 11 innings over the Toronto Blue Jays. Why the game was insane, but more so, why the Dodgers winning this year's World Series is fantastic for Major League Baseball. Talk about that. Also get into Chiefs versus Bills, why Buffalo maybe showed a new wrinkle into an ability to finally get over the hump and beat Kansas City in the playoffs. Talk about that. Also get into my Steelers, a shockingly impressive performance against the best offense of football, the Indianapolis Colts. Talk about that. The thing I was most impressed with, and it wasn't the turnover. Discuss that. Also talk about the Packers just getting upset, shocked, however you want to dub it, against the Carolina Panthers. What the heck's going on, Green Bay? I can tell you exactly what's going wrong, and it ain't sure as heck ain't the defense. Talk about that. Speaking of bad defenses, Cincinnati, I think Caleb Williams, the Bears, might be starting to figure out a little bit why I'm out on Denver, as well as reaction to the rest of Week 9 in the National Football League, predictions for Cardinals and Cowboys at the end of the show. Carving Up is absolutely loaded on a Monday. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go.
The best two words in sports. Game 7.
Late great Bill Russell was indeed correct on that one. The best two words in sports are Game 7. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Instagram, and on Facebook. I am Bryson Carver. Great to be with you. I see my guy, Ty Reddington, my co-host at the Grid Network. He says, hey, he's excited for me to be here. I'm excited for Ty to be here. I'm excited for everybody to be here on this Monday when, we go into our first show in November. And the Halloween show is fun. Don't get me wrong. But we are starting to get into, pardon the expression, but the meat and potatoes, given this month where meat and potatoes are a big, storyline, get into the meat and potatoes of the sports calendar year. So Major League Baseball is over. We got one November baseball game, and it was an all-timer. We'll leave with that in a second. Talk about Bills and Chiefs. Josh Allen thoroughly outplaying Patrick Mahomes. Discuss that. My Steelers, I'm not going to lie to you, I was shocked. Utterly shocked at what I saw from my Pittsburgh Steelers yesterday against the Colts. Talk about that. Talk about the Packers getting upset. Yeah, I mean, you heard the open. That's what we're going to be talking about. A lot of NFL football, of course, as we do every Monday show. Reaction to all of the Week 9 games around the National Football League. I almost decided to do a Tennessee segment, a Tennessee Ball segment, not to rant on the team, but to rant on the fans. I'm going to save that for a special edition. It's going to be a combined segment. The Vol View and Carving Up the Context on a Wednesday. And you all know, Vol View, that is a Friday, strictly Friday segment. This week, I'm pissed off enough to move it up to Wednesday. We'll have a Carving Up as well. My guy, Alfred Parso Jr., Metropolitan Report, subscribe to his podcast, does an amazing job covering baseball, and in particular, the Mets. He says, here for the Rodgers apology. Spoiler, Alfred and audience, you won't necessarily get that, but you'll certainly, I'll give Aaron his love, but more so the defense. And it wasn't the turnovers that I was impressed with from the Pittsburgh Steelers. Talk about that in about a half hour on today's show. But there's no other way to start Carving It Up than with what was quite simply one of the greatest baseball games we have ever seen. And as far as I'm concerned, the best athletic event in the year of our Lord 2025. So let's get right to it. But first, the Los Angeles Dodgers go back-to-back. First team in Major League Baseball to do that this century. They win the World Series 5-4 in an all-time classic, Game 7, against the Toronto Blue Jays. So where to go on this game? Well, there's a number of things. Number one is the fact that this is a Dodgers team that we knew their primary weakness coming into the postseason was their bullpen. I mean, up and down the roster, the starting rotation is great. You got Snell, you got Glasnow, you got Yamamoto. And we're going to get to Yamamoto in just a second. Shohei Ohtani came back second half of the season. All these guys who stepped up. The bullpen, not great. You don't necessarily trust it. And we saw in the Game 6 where Yamamoto gives them 6 strong innings, only gives up that one run. In the game, the Toronto Blue Jays put themselves in a position, bases loaded, or rather, runners on second and third, rather. It was bases loaded with no outs in the 9th inning to win this game in a Game 7. And what I think is really fascinating about this entire situation. So it's 4-2. Bo Bichette hits the home run off Shohei Ohtani early, and I'm thinking, man, if the Dodgers office can't get going. I know it was the 3rd inning, but you saw by the reaction by Shohei, it's like, gosh darn it, I might have just blown it there. And Shohei's been really good on the mound this postseason. He thought he blew it. Dodgers call back into it. 8th inning, Max Muncy, underrated kind of hero, sub-hero of the game. He was kind of like the Robin to Miguel Rojas's Batman, but you got, really Miguel Rojas was kind of Robin, I guess, to Yamamoto's Batman. And then obviously you got Max Muncy showing up as Alfred, so to speak. But Max Muncy tying home run, or home run to cut it to a 1-run game in the 8th inning. And with the Toronto Blue Jays, let's put it this way, forget 2 outs away from a title. A strike and an out, because it was a full count to Miguel Rojas at the bottom of the Dodgers lineup. I'm thinking, along with everybody else, holy smokes, we're going to get Shohei Ohtani at the plate, World Series on the line, Dodgers trailing by 1. This is must-see TV. And Miguel Rojas steps up there, hits one into left field, and bam, we are tied. Goes to the bottom of the 9th. Still Blue Jays got a shot to win it. Bases loaded. It's like, oh my gosh, Yamamoto, who, just threw 100 pitches, or 96 pitches, I believe, in game 6, after throwing a complete game in game 2, after almost having to come in out of the bullpen 2 days removed from throwing 100-plus pitches off the complete game in a game 3, had that gone to the 19th inning. If Freddie Freeman doesn't become the hero of that day, Yamamoto pitches. So he got his work. He had his work cut out from the World Series. He stepped up. Bases loaded, 1 out. Ground ball hit to Miguel Rojas. And I mean, Kiner Falefa is inches away from scoring the winning run. Will Smith, the catcher for the Dodgers, just for a second, has his cleat off of home. And then at the last second, spike of the cleat, touches home plate. Kiner Falefa's out. And then still, fly ball left center. I talked with my good friend Addison Ragland. Shout out to Addison, my former co-host at the Triple Option Show last year. Big Dodgers fan, former softball player. And I kind of asked her, I was like, was that play more difficult than it had to be? Fly ball looks like Kike Hernandez is going to kind of, not Willie Mays, but kind of like basket catch that. He's going to, look it into his glove. And here comes Andy Paez. Just full on Ed Reed's the guy. Like it's 2009 NFL football. Jumps up, makes a play, knocks Hernandez into the wall. And we go to overtime. Will Smith with the go-ahead homer in the 11th. By the way, also with 2 outs. Some more 2-out damage by the LA Dodgers. And then bottom of the 11th, Toronto's got Vlad Guerrero Jr., 90 feet from the plate with 1 out. Sack fly, we're tied. Ground ball to Mookie Betts, steps on second, throws to Freddie Freeman, and the Dodgers are champions. And this is in no way to rub in what this type of defeat represented for the Toronto Blue Jays. But if we have this graphic, I'd love to pull it up here just to show how painfully close. Here we go. We got it. The Toronto Blue Jays were to winning a title. So lost in 18 innings in game 3. That was devastating. And then, but by the way, before they came back to win games 4 and 5 in Los Angeles, had runners at second and third, no outs in the 9th of game 6, 2 outs away from a title in game 7 before obviously the Rojas homer. Bases loaded in the 9th with 1 out. Then Kiner Falefa inches away from scoring. He's out. Fly ball that almost gets dropped by Paez because he almost kills Kike Hernandez in the 9th inning with 2 outs. Vlad Jr. in scoring position with 1 out in the 11th before the game-ending double play. It's about as devastating as it gets. And as for Yamamoto, can we show Yamamoto, to me, the runaway MVP of the World Series, deservedly so. Put up Yamamoto's stats because he was nothing short of magic for the Dodgers. 17 2/3 innings, an ERA of 1.07. Both Ohtani and Snell, in theory, the other 2 best pitchers for the Dodgers, along with Yamamoto, had ERAs over 6 in the World Series. Yamamoto, just a tick over 1. 15 strikeouts, 3-0 record you see right there. First pitcher since the great Randy Johnson with the Arizona Diamondbacks in 2001 to win 3 games in the World Series. We really haven't seen a pitching performance like this since what we saw from Madison Bumgarner with the San Francisco Giants back in 2014. But he didn't win 3 games. He came in a relief effort, got the 5-out save in Game 7 against Kansas City. That's number 1. And number 2, with respect to the Kansas City Royals and Eric Hosmer and Salvador Perez, that team ain't the Toronto Blue Jays. A Toronto Blue Jays team that I talked about multiple times had scored 25 more runs than the Dodgers coming into the World Series. And thinking about this game, we could talk about the crazy, almost cinematic type of feel to it. Every time you think it's over, every time Toronto's going to do this, Dodgers come up with a clutch play. It's the fact that, you know who this Dodgers team reminded me of? It reminded me of a recent champion in a different sport. Ironically, both teams went back-to-back. They reminded me a little bit of the 2023 Kansas City Chiefs. Both teams were the 3 seed in their conference. Both teams took out an overmatched playoff opponent in their first round. Dodgers against the Reds, Chiefs against the Dolphins. Both teams were, I think by all accounts, underdogs in their next game. Chiefs against the Bills, Dodgers against the Phillies. Beat the 1 seed in their conference. Chiefs beat the Ravens. Dodgers beat the Milwaukee Brewers. And then just every single time they need to make a clutch play, be it in the World Series or in the Super Bowl, against arguably a better team, or certainly a more high-octane type of offense, they make the play to win it. And by the way, both the Dodgers and the Chiefs in 2023 had subpar regular seasons by their standards. Dodgers just barely got to 90 wins. Like, Dodgers won the NL West, but I mean, there's a reason that they had to go on the road for games 1, 2, 6, and 7 against the Toronto Blue Jays. The Blue Jays were better. And so there's an element of, man, if you didn't get them now, when are you going to get them in the next few years? I'm not saying they're going to reel off 5 in a row or something, but watching the game end and the Dodgers win the World Series, yes, as a Red Sox fan, I'm glad Toronto didn't win. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm glad Toronto didn't win. Felt bad for Vladdy. Glad Toronto didn't win. But in a larger sense, for the health of Major League Baseball, Game 7 was a great night. Unless you're a Blue Jays fan, obviously. Because it means for the first time in a quarter century, baseball's not only got a dynasty, baseball's got a villain. Baseball's got a Darth Vader, which football's had really for the entire Super Bowl era, save for a few gap years in between. Right now, it's the Chiefs, it was the Patriots, it was the Cowboys, it was the Niners, it was the Steelers, it was the Packers. NBA, isn't the NBA kind of going through a dry spell because of the god-awful CBA? And I've talked about that in the show with Adam Silver, the horrible CBA that basically prevents teams like Oklahoma City, for example, from becoming a dynasty. Because last I checked, NBA is at its most popular when the Lakers and Celtics were dominating in the 80s, and the Bulls in the 90s, and the Shaq Kobe Lakers early 2000s, and the Warriors in the 2010s. That's when the NBA is most popular. Why? Because there's a Joker to everybody else's Batman. There's a Darth Vader at everybody else's Luke Skywalker. There's a Thanos to everybody else's Iron Man. In other words, everybody kind of unifies around that one team. Oh, man, I hope David can beat Goliath in this match. I hope David can beat Goliath in the World Series or the Super Bowl or the NBA Finals. And when they do, because the Dodgers run is going to last forever. No run does. When that team eventually gets over the hump and does beat, well, let's say we get a rematch in 2026 and the Blue Jays beat the Dodgers to beat a 3-decade curse. Folks, you cannot tell me that would not feel differently than if they'd beaten the Phillies or the Padres or the Brewers or the Cubs. It does. It felt different for the Cavs beating the Warriors in 2016 than it would have felt if they'd beaten the Thunder or the Spurs. It just does. And that's, I mean, ask the Detroit Pistons what they felt when they finally got over the Lakers in the late 80s, or what the Bulls felt like when they finally got over the Pistons in the early 90s. There's a bit of a climbing the mountaintop type of vibe with it, and you're going to see that somewhere in the future. Eventually, someone is going to conquer the giant that is the Dodgers. And before I have to hear about payroll and, oh, they bought their way to a title, never forget, and I'm sure my guy Alfred is watching, shout out to Barry Gritton Jr. as well, big Mets fans, but, and this isn't a shot at them, it's a shot at the organization. Never forget the Mets, $300 million payroll the last 3 years, and they missed the playoffs 2 of those 3 years. Couldn't even get in the postseason over the small market Cincinnati Reds this year in what was in the middle to bottom of the NL, kind of a weak, weak league. Couldn't get in the postseason 2 of the last 3 years, the New York Mets. Don't forget the New York Yankees, who haven't won a title since 2009. It's been 16 years. There's a whole generation of kids that have never known the Yankees to be a great franchise in terms of a championship-winning, type of franchise. Philadelphia Phillies still can't get over the hump. Every year it feels like division series, NLCS, they disappoint you against Arizona or Atlanta or the Dodgers. So we can talk about big market team. The Boston Red Sox, big market team, won't spend money. Wouldn't bring back Mookie Betts. Traded Rafael Devers as a salary dump, despite the fact that he was far and away the best power hitter in their lineup. Don't get mad at the Dodgers for doing their job the right way. Don't get mad at Mark Walter, the owner. Don't get mad at Dave Roberts for pulling all the right strings. And he's taken a lot of crap from Dodgers fans over the years. Dave Roberts has been excellent the last 2 postseasons. Don't get mad at Dave Roberts for doing his job as the manager, for managing a bad bullpen all postseason long masterfully. Trusting Miguel Rojas, trusting Andy Pages defensively, putting him in for Tommy Edman in Game 7. And certainly, don't get mad at Shohei Ohtani and Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, who had a terrible first 5 games, Huge RBI single in game 6, got the game-ending double play in game 7. And a Yoshinobu Yamamoto, who is nothing short of brilliant in the final games. Or really not the final games, all series, really going back to game 2 against Milwaukee. Complete game against Milwaukee in game 2, complete game 2 against Toronto, almost pitches in game 3 because how long the game went, saves the Dodgers season in game 6, and closes the deal in game 7. That was incredible. It truly, truly was. And so, congrats to the Dodgers. Baseball, finally, after decades without it, has a villain, has a bad guy, has a Goliath that all the rest of the Davids are coming after. And when they do, how satisfying will that be? It doesn't feel the same when it's Raptors Warriors, Lakers Heat, Bucks Suns, Celtics Warriors, Nuggets Heat, Celtics Mavs, Thunder Pacers, different teams every year. Everybody says they love parity. Funny, the ratings say differently. It's the most watched game in Major League Baseball in almost a decade. People love big moments with big-time teams, with dynasties, with teams that do everything the right way, great ownership, great manager, great roster. Get mad at your big market. And I'm talking about big market teams. And I'm not talking about the Tampa Bay Rays, Kansas City Royals, or Colorado Rockies. I'm talking about the Red Sox, both New York teams, the Phillies, the Padres. You've got resources similar to LA. You're just not willing to spend the money like the Dodgers are. Blue Jays darn sure don't have the resources the Dodgers did. They probably should have won the series. It's not the Milwaukee Brewers won more games than anybody in Major League Baseball. Anybody acting like a Dodgers championship was just always inevitable. It was always going to happen. Or lying to themselves or telling a revisionist story, because that simply was not the case. After they beat the Reds, I can't not count the number of people that thought they were going to lose to Philadelphia in round 2. Some thought they lose to Milwaukee. A lot of people thought they lose to the Toronto Blue Jays, especially after it was 3-2 going back to Toronto. So that was a lesson in handling adversity, the heart of a champion, all the cliches we hear about. The Dodgers showed every bit of that to be a very real thing. They are a dynasty, 3 titles in 6 seasons, and this was one of the heroes. The hero is Yamamoto, but the Robin to his Batman, Miguel Rojas, who never, if it's not for this guy, Yamamoto's not even in position to win the game. This was Miguel Rojas after the game with Tom Verducci talking about the win for the Los Angeles Dodgers and that game-tying hit in the 9th.
Yeah, I was never trying to hit a home run. I think this is the first home run against a right-handed pitcher during the whole year, and it came to the biggest part of my life and my career, in front of these fans and in front of the city of LA and my teammates. Kind of like battle, and I can really describe right now the emotions that I felt. Not just tying the game, but given the opportunity to bring Yamamoto for another spectacular performance. That guy is everything that you can ask for. I have to put my teammates in front of me because I wasn't able to do whatever I did today because without the confidence of Doc, my teammates, and everybody who kind of believe in me.
I mean, it's listen, obviously a humble kid, just had the biggest hit of his life, one of the biggest hits literally in Dodgers franchise history, and they've had a lot of them in the last 2 years, 2 of them by Freddie Freeman. But that was just an all-time sports classic. Forget baseball. That was an all-time classic game in all of sports. Got a lot of comments from my man Alfred. He says, the great Ohtani is not human. That's a fact. The Dodgers are now both villains and a dynasty. True. Love this comment. Almost forgot to mention him. Kershaw can retire on a ring even though he faced one batter in this World Series. Yes, but it was huge. And I said it. I think I said it. I don't honestly remember what I said during my 3 a.m. reaction video that I put in the YouTube channel right after Game 3 was over. But I'm pretty sure I remember saying that the only time, again, I'm pulling for the Dodgers, but I'm not. The Dodgers lose. Okay, who cares? I'm a Red Sox fan. But when Kershaw came out there in the 12th in Game 3, I'm like, oh, God, please don't. Please get out of this, Kershaw. Your career cannot end. And by the way, Kershaw's had plenty of postseason failures in October in his prime like this. His career cannot end with a postseason blunder. And so for him to get out of that spot, his interview with the guys at FS1, Kevin Burkhardt, Big Papi, A-Rod Jeter was fantastic. I should have brought my Dog t-shirt because David Ortiz, by the way, the great David Ortiz, Mr. October in the 21st century as far as I'm concerned. He obviously often gives the My Dog t-shirt. He gave it to Mookie Betts after game 6. Did he give it to Yamamoto after game 7? I'm sure he did. It was either Yamamoto or Miguel Rojas or somebody. I'm sure one of those two guys got it. Maybe it was to Kershaw. I'm one of the people that can say I should have brought the shirt down here. Now I'm kicking myself to the studio. But I am one of the few people that can say, got a My Dog t-shirt from Big Papi. So, didn't pay dime for it. Papi himself didn't give it to me. I think the director at Fox gave it to me. She was very, very nice. But I guess I can say that I got the My Dog t-shirt from Papi. And I didn't play a single pitch of baseball. So that was great. But no, Kershaw, shout out to him. Okay, so, and then I disagree with Alfred to a degree in this. He says, tell Manfred to get rid of the ghost runner rule, more suspense and extra innings. I'm willing to, at least in the postseason, regular season, I really don't care. Postseason, I'm willing to compromise because I maintain, I got a lot of crap for it on social media. I stand by every word I said after game 3. That was bad for baseball. We do not need games. Thank God game 3 was in LA and not in the East Coast. We do not need games ending at 2:50 in the morning on the East Coast. People got school, people got work, people got things to do. I'm not saying shorten the game to where it's like, oh, what the heck just happened? But in a sport with no clock, man, the game doesn't need to go almost 7 hours. I said the same thing. I didn't have a podcast at the time, but I said the same thing after the 18-inning affair between my Sox and Dodgers in game 3 of 2018. That was not a good night for baseball. That game is exactly why the ghost runner rule came into effect. And so I'm willing to compromise ghost runner at first. Don't automatically put him in at scoring position. Put him at first. Now, double play ends the inning, basically, but still, at least it's kind of a healthy compromise in the middle. But no, 11 innings was great for game 7. If that thing had gone to 16, I mean, it was on a Saturday, so it wasn't as bad as game 3 because that was on a Monday, but still, the game was too long. Yeah, Alfred, play it. Home plate in the bottom of the ninth was clutch. Game of inches. Other GMs of baseball need to take notes. In my best Vladdy Jr. voice, duh, Blue Jays lose. That's brutal. Dodgers, the more championship seasoned team. Mookie with 4 rings, Freeman with 3. Yeah, don't remind me about the 3 rings that Mookie's gotten since being out of Boston. And first repeat champion since 99-2000, no question. And he also says trading Devers got to the playoffs, sir. Maybe it got us to the playoffs. We were dead on arrival once we got there because Trevor Story at that point was our home run leader. He had 25. And I love Trevor Story. I hope we bring him back. I definitely hope we can bring him back. Maybe if we get Kyle Schwarber, that fixes things. There's rumors Schwarber might want to come to Boston or come back to Boston. I would be more than thrilled with that. Mets had the worst team in baseball. Yeah, no question. Miguel Rojas, the most unlikeliest of heroes. And that is, let me put that comment back up. That is what makes, that's what makes these game 7 so amazing. That's what makes Super Bowls great is, man, it could be somebody out of nowhere. Yeah, we think about the stars. It's why I picked Teoscar Hernandez before the series to win MVP is because in recent years, man, it's not really the superstars that win World Series MVP. It was Jorge Soler for the Braves, not Freddie Freeman. It was, 07. That Red Sox team was stacked. It wasn't Papi, wasn't Dustin Pedroia, wasn't Manny Ramirez. It was Mike Lowell. Shout out to Mike Lowell. Loved him in Boston, but not a superstar player by any stretch. That's often how the World Series plays out. Now, Yamamoto is a superstar. All right, let's get that out of the way. Undeniable superstar. And Patrick Brown, shout out to Patrick. It's the Dodgers League, and we're living it in real time. Indeed, we are. So, shout out to the Dodgers. That was all-time classic Game 7 in every sense of the word. That was, I was in Neyland Stadium for my volunteers playing the Sooners. Disappointing lost my balls. We're basically out of playoff contention now. Like I said, I've got a special carving up the context for Wednesday, and it's not and I'm going after some people, none of which play for the Tennessee Volunteers. None of which coach for the Tennessee Volunteers. Gonna want to stay tuned for Wednesday's show. It'll be a dandy, to say the very least. But I'm kind of I'm looking at the score in and out between the games. Once it gets to late fourth quarter and the chance of Tennessee winning are pretty slim. At that point, I took my phone out and started watching Game 7 around the 7th inning. So this is not long before Max Muncy hits the tying, or not the tying. I keep saying that. Not long before Max Muncy hits the homer in the 8th to cut it to a 1-run game. And from that point forward, just watching it, and it was, edge of my seat. I'm walking the streets of Knoxville, crowded streets of Knoxville, watching it. I'm in the car headed home, watching it. It was unbelievable. So all-time great Game 7, and congrats to the Los Angeles Dodgers. All right, let's shift to football now. I might as well. It was a great football weekend. I got to say, Week 8 in the NFL was kind of mid. Not a ton of close games. I said last Monday, it felt like there was a separation between the contenders, the good playoff teams, and the bad teams. And yesterday, maybe some of the things that we saw yesterday brought it back down to earth to a degree. We got to talk Kansas City Chiefs. We got to talk Buffalo Bills. Bills win 28-21 over the Chiefs at Highmark Stadium. Josh Allen, if we could pull up his numbers, was nothing short of sensational against Kansas City. 3 total touchdowns, 1 passing, 2 rushing. No picks. The man completed 88.5% of his passes. 292 total yards, pass rating of 123, QBR 0 to 100 of 83.9. I'm shocked the QBR wasn't a little higher because QBR kind of takes into account your whole performance. They watch the film, and then they give you a grade afterwards. But nonetheless, Josh Allen was far and away the best player in the field yesterday. I'll talk about Kansas City a little bit for Buffalo. I feel like it's funny. A few weeks ago when they lost the Atlanta Falcons on Monday Night Football, that was their second straight loss. They just lost the Patriots, and they lost to Atlanta. And I'm thinking, man, are we going back to the circa 2020, 21, 22 Buffalo Bills, where it's a situation where, what are you a Josh Allen fan? Is that what we're doing? I thought you were a Jordan Love fan. What are we talking about? This is ridiculous. I got my sister. She's trying to do. This is a little detour in the show, but what she's trying to do is distract from the fact that her Packers got upset by the Panthers as what were they? 12.5 point, 13.5 point favorites. That was. Oh, now you're leaving. Okay. Okay. Adios. See ya. We'll talk about that in the show. It's just a little, okay. So she's leaving now. Okay. That was funny. Okay. She's a big Josh Allen fan. That's why she was peeking her head. She hates Mahomes, loves Josh, even though one is more of a flop artist than the other. That's neither here nor there. But seriously though, on Josh and the Bills, I'm thinking, man, are we going back to circa 2020, 21, 22, where it's Josh has to be Superman? Defense isn't very good. Running game, hit or miss. Heck no. The last 2 games, again, they blow out Carolina, which, by the way, that looks like a pretty good win today. Panthers got a winning record. Now, that game was with Andy Dalton, but still. Off a bye, Buffalo came into Charlotte and took care of business. And then last night against Kansas City, 5th straight regular season win for the Bills over the Kansas City Chiefs. Buffalo showed me. I know, and I've said this since last year, I know the numerous ways they can beat you on the opposite side of the football. Josh, self-explanatory. We know who Josh Allen is. The running game of James Cook, all of a sudden, we talk about Jonathan Taylor's been great, save for yesterday. Christian McCaffrey's been great. Top of tier 2, let's talk about James Cook. This man, I think, is like 3rd in the NFL in rushing yards. He's been awesome. He has been kind of the key to the Buffalo Bills being a Super Bowl contender over the last 2 years because if Josh Allen doesn't get that backing for the run game, now he has to be Superman. Now he has to throw a million times a game. Now he's going to be taking more hits. If Josh gets that assistance of the running game with his own ability to run the football, now Buffalo's offense is a different monster. I was blown away by the Buffalo Bills defense. Blown. As a guy who has been, the Buffalo Bills can win the Super Bowl, but I think that defense is going to be the reason why they don't. That was remarkable. I mean, you talk about a kid, you talk about the kids that they have on this defense. You talk about Cole Bishop, who stepped up for them in a major way. In the secondary, second-year player, second-round pick back in 2024. He was sensational. I thought the fact that their pass rush, Joey Bosa, Russo, Hoyt, which devastating for him. He tore his Achilles in that game yesterday, which is just a gut punch for the Bills because he played so well against that Kansas City O-line. I get it. They were without, Josh Simmons, who's been away because of a family matter. You anticipate he'll be back for the Chiefs after the bye. Trey Smith, I believe, was dealing with injuries. Juwan Taylor got hurt in the game. I get Kansas City's O-line was beat up. We haven't seen Buffalo's defensive line outside of a guess week 1 against Baltimore look like that all season. I mean, Joey Bosa looks like 2017, 18, 19 Joey Bosa. He was fantastic in this game. Got after Patrick Mahomes, and that has been the book. We can show you Mahomes' numbers, I believe. Do we have Mahomes' numbers? Hold on, let's go. Here it is. We can go and put up Mahomes' numbers in this game. I mean, he was not good. No touchdowns, 1 pick, 44% completion. You see down there, that's the lowest completion percentage of his career. 250 yards, pass ring of 57, which is bad. QBR 0 to 150, which is fair. Like, I feel like it should have been a little bit lower, but that's fair enough. The book on Mahomes, ironically, is the book on the guy that he is attempting to chase in the GOAT case, Tom Brady. For whatever reason, I again, maybe someone who's better at breaking down film than I am can understand this. For whatever reason, man, you get pressure on those two, and they're a different player. I mean, Tom's the runaway GOAT. when he was facing pressure in some of those Super Bowls against the Giants, particularly in 2007 and to a degree 2011. Heck, he even had some rough stretches in that 2014 Super Bowl against Seattle. Eventually got it together in the fourth and was magic, but Tom dealing with pressure, different player. Patrick Mahomes, the Super Bowl against Tampa, second Super Bowl against Philadelphia. Yesterday, get pressure on this guy, get to him about 60% of the time, he struggles. And that's for a guy, Brady was a master in the pocket. Mahomes not as good as Brady in the pocket, but is better moving outside the pocket, making plays. I mean, yesterday he was taking some, not late hits, but kind of some, hey, we're here, we're going to give you hell all night type of hits on the sidelines. And so, like, that was Buffalo on both sides of the ball, completely dominating the line of scrimmage. With James Cook on offense, the offensive line for Buffalo, which is one of the best in the league, dominating what's kind of a weak KC defensive line. I think Brett Veach in the next, 21 and a half hours is going to make a deal at the deadline to try and add to bolster that to that D-line, because Chris Jones is not having a great year. Karlaftis, not what you would anticipate at this particular juncture. I think Kansas City is going to add to that D-line at the trade deadline. Buffalo dominates the line of scrimmage offensively, defensively, same thing. That was one of the more impressive defensive line performances I've seen all NFL season. I mean, they had Patrick Mahomes scrambling the whole night, trying to find receivers open. A couple times he did. Fourth and 17, he finds Rashee Rice. Only Patrick Mahomes feels like can pull off a 4th and 17 in that spot. But by and large, that was highly impressive with the Bills. The fact that he was even a 7-point game with 22 seconds left, some of that is the fact that Matt Prater doinks the kick with a chance to give them to put the Bills up 10. Why Buffalo didn't punt in that situation is beyond me. Regardless, very impressed by the Bills. On the other side with the Chiefs. So again, we can show Mahomes' numbers in this game against Buffalo. Like, he struggled. Dealt with pressure all game. Lowest completion percentage of his career, the whole bit. O-line was a little bit beat up, but still, that was impressive on the part of the Bills. I think Kansas City, almost dropped my glasses here, for a future segment on the show. I feel like with Kansas City, they're sitting there at 5-4. They're 2 games back of the Denver Broncos in the AFC West. Now, they do still play Denver twice this season. In fact, they play Denver right out of the bye in 2 weeks. I made a prediction on the Kansas City Chiefs, a week ago, 2 weeks ago? I thought they would win this game. I picked them to win this game. I was obviously wrong. But I said, whether it's the game against Buffalo, maybe it's a Denver game. Maybe it's not going to be a Chargers game because they're not getting swept by the Chargers, especially now with the injuries to LA, which we'll talk about later. Maybe it'll be one of these weird ones. But my prediction was that Kansas City would lose a grand total of 1 game the rest of the year. And I made that prediction about 10 days ago. They've lost it. They're going to run the table. They're going. The next time the Kansas City Chiefs lose a football game will be the fall of 2026, barring an injury to Mahomes, or barring maybe they have their playoff spot locked up by week 18, and so they sit their starters. Barring any of those 2 circumstances or scenarios, they're going to win every single game they play the rest of the way and win Super Bowl 60 in San Francisco. Here's why I say that. Number 1, the toughest game on Kansas City's schedule the rest of the way is at Denver. 2 things, and this will spoil my Broncos take a little bit, which I'm saving for later in the show. But number 1, they're coming off a bye, and Andy Reid is awesome off a bye. Number 2, I'm sorry, I'm not. I think Denver's roster sensational. I'm starting to be a bit of a seller on Bo Nix. Seriously, like, clutch, don't get me wrong. Eagles, Giants, Texans late yesterday, albeit without CJ Stroud. That guy ain't beating a fully healthy Chiefs team. Like, I don't care if it's at home in Denver. Broncos have won, was it 8 games in a row, 9 games in a row at home? That's over in 2 weeks. As long as Mahomes is healthy, and he will be. That's off a bye. That's a must-win game for the Chiefs. Frankly, the rest of the year is kind of must-win games for the Kansas City Chiefs. Denver twice, a team that Mahomes has owned over the course of his career. Chargers later this year, and the Chargers have just, by no fault of their own, just been ravaged by injuries. You still play, well, what about the Colts? A, that's an Arrowhead. B, just see the Colts yesterday against the Steelers defense that I'm still not terribly convinced is all the way back. I hope I'm wrong, but I am not convinced after 1 game. Daniel Jones ain't going into Arrowhead and beating Mahomes. I tell you, that ain't happening. Just like he wasn't going to SoFi and beating Stafford. That's off the table. And then you got, what do you got? Raiders. Let me put up the rest of Kansas City's schedule because it's not the murderer's row that people make it out to be. Texans defense is great. The offense is atrocious. Then you got Titans, Raiders. That will get Kansas City worst case to the 2 seed because my prediction preseason was 13-4 for Kansas City. That'll get them to the 2 seed, which is where I had them. I think when it's all said and done, Buffalo's going to run down for New England for the AFC East. And we will get, as we've gotten 4 times, a rematch of these 2 teams in the playoffs in the final game at Highmark Stadium. Check the tape. This was my preseason prediction. AFC title game, Buffalo, New York, the final game ever played in the history of Highmark Stadium. Kansas City will go into Buffalo, beat the Bills, because, they always beat the Bills, and Patrick Mahomes, as great as Josh Allen is, has outplayed Josh Allen every single time they faced in the postseason. And overall, he's been the better player, indisputably. And so I don't hear a lot of panic in the Chiefs. I think that's because people know they played their C- game and it came down to a Hail Mary at Buffalo with Josh Allen playing his A++ game. So Chiefs will be fine. And not only that, I think they're going to run the table. I really, really do. Their schedule, the toughest game left is Denver. And that's off a bye. For Kansas City and Andy Reid, we know going back to Philly is immaculate off a bye. And also, that fourth quarter pixie dust in Denver is going to run out. Yeah, it is. That's not sustainable over the course of a season. There's a stat I'm going to bring up on the Broncos later that shows that. And so, highly impressed by what I saw from the Bills. Defensive line controlled the line of scrimmage. Offensive line really controlled the line of scrimmage. And that's the book on Mahomes. That's the book on Tom Brady. Get to them, bring pressure. They're a different player. And I'll also say 2 things, because I happen to think if this game was played at Arrowhead and not Highmark, and if these calls had gone in the opposite direction for number 15 instead of for number 17, that heck, this might have led my show over Game 7. Is that, Josh Allen, I hear about, Mahomes flops. He draws all these roughing the passer calls. He's soft. Number 1, Josh Allen led the NFL in roughing the passer penalties last year, if my research serves me correctly. Number 2, I saw Josh Allen slide in this game against Kansas City and was quite literally tapped on the helmet and threw his head back. I mean, listen, I know he's married to Haley Steinfeld. Maybe his wife is giving him acting lessons. I don't know. Maybe he gets an Oscar before she does. Who knows? Throws his head back like, oh my God. Thank God the refs didn't fall for it. If that had been Mahomes, I think the internet would have lost it. I know the internet would have lost it. Third quarter, Kansas City's driving. Patrick Mahomes throws a pass. Live, it looks like it's in no man's land. Mahomes in the pocket. Bam! Flag that for intentional grounding, except you look at the replay, that sucker was tipped at the line of scrimmage. But according to Gene Steratore on CBS, they can't review that. I think that's a dumb rule. I think they should change that after the year. But as of now, 2025, they can't review that. If that had been Josh, and I love Josh Allen, second best quarterback in football easily, there would have been a full-on, as usual, outrage on the internet. And by the way, something else too, one last thing, because I've heard for the last couple of years that the games are just rigged for the Chiefs. That the game, the outcomes have been decided. It's WWE. They're decided ahead of the game. I mean, it's obvious to everybody. Because these one-score games, if it's close, the Chiefs are going to get a call to put them over the top. That's what I heard all of last year. Do you know the Chiefs are 0-4 in one-score games? Haven't won. So there's all that. For all you conspiracy theorists that believe in the idiotic idea that the games have been fixed ahead of time, which is impossible to do, by the way. If people understood how hard it was to fix an NFL game, fix any professional sport. Regardless, very impressed by what I saw from the Buffalo Bills. Be back after just a 1-minute break to talk about my Pittsburgh Steelers. Is what we saw yesterday from them against the Colts, is it maybe sustainable? Talk about that in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. We got a lot to show. Lots of show left to do. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. You see I've got my terrible towel on because, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, a day that I didn't think would necessarily happen today. It is a black and yellow Victory Monday. Black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow, black and yellow. Indeed it is. The Pittsburgh Steelers, my beloved Pittsburgh Steelers, beat the Indianapolis Colts 27-20 as a 3.5-point home dog. Listen, I thought I've been hard on Mike Tomlin. Will continue to be, by the way, if things don't change quickly. But I thought the Mike Tomlin as a home dog, always take the home dog Mike Tomlin thing was dead after last week against Green Bay. Looks like it isn't. So listen, we could talk about the offense, which was, I didn't want to say it was that good necessarily. It was more just opportunistic because it was playing off the not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 turnovers that the Indianapolis Colts committed yesterday, 5 of which, by the way, 3 interceptions by Daniel Jones, 2 fumbles, and then a botch on a punt return in the first half, which netted the Steelers at no points. So I can't give the offense a grade much better than a B-. Like, aside from the Roman Wilson play, which was dumb. What are you doing, dude? Outside of the hurdle where he fumbles the ball. Outside of that, didn't turn the football over. Aaron Rodgers playing that game manager role. He was efficient. Passer rating of 95. QBR of 0 to 100 of 60. Like, that is around 200 yards, a touchdown, getting the ball to guys like Darnell Washington and DK Metcalf. I believe 9 Steelers caught passes yesterday. That is when Aaron Rodgers can be at his best. At age 41, 2 years removed from an Achilles surgery, 4 years removed from being elite, 5 years removed from winning a playoff game. That's where he has to be effective. Ball out of his hands quick, especially with the terrible Steelers offensive line. Ball out of his hands quick. Let's spread the ball around. I would love to see Omar Khan go out in the trade deadline and address the need for a wide receiver too. God bless Calvin Austin and Roman Wilson and anybody the Steelers, they've tried. What's my man's name? Shoot. I'm forgetting his guy's name. Johnny Smith's a tight end. His name escapes me. Still can't remember his name. Number 15 for the Steelers. I can't remember the guy's name. Apologies. Regardless, the fact that this team is able to be as effective offensively without a number 2 receiver, with yesterday and in large stretches of the season, well, really for the last few years, no running game. Ben Skronik, that's who it was, by the way. Ben Skronik. I was trying to remember who that was. Ben Skronik has been their number 2 at times. Aaron's got to get the ball out of his hands quick. Aaron's got to be efficient. Aaron's got to be accurate. He can't make the plays outside the pocket that he used to, except for like 1 or 2 throws every other game. Saw it against the Packers. Saw it at times against the Bengals, who I think don't believe in this thing called defense, which we'll get into in about 10 minutes or so. The Steelers offense did what they were supposed to. The Steelers defense blew me away. So first of all, it started with literally in the parking lot of Acrisure Stadium. They showed it on NFL Countdown on ESPN. I mean, Mike Greenberg and the guys were dying laughing watching. It was funny, but it was also accurate. Is the fact that Pittsburgh Steelers fans were holding a literal open casket funeral for the Steelers defense in the parking lot. I mean, you had fans coming in and out to pay their respects, to pay tribute to what used to be a hallmark of Pittsburgh Steelers football. Great defenses. Looks like that's gone. Steelers defense stepped up. And you say, well, yeah, of course they did 6 turnovers. That's not it. The Steelers have beaten, ironically, the top 2 teams in terms of record in the AFC, the Colts and the Patriots, with a combined, this stat doesn't even seem real, 11 takeaways against the top 2 teams, the Colts and the New England Patriots. That's not sustainable over a 17-game season and then playing into January. Sometimes, again, some of it's being opportunistic. Some of it's being right place, right time, which involves a little bit of luck, a little bit of schematics, a combination of the two. And some of it is football shaped kind of funny. Sometimes you're going to play quarterbacks who do play mistake-free football, who aren't going to give you an opportunity to make plays, more disciplined teams than a young Colts team or a very young Patriots team. With a veteran defense in Pittsburgh, Watt, Hayward, Patrick Queen, Jalen Ramsey, like older guys who have been there and done that, is that if you're not forcing turnovers, can you get stops? And the fact of the matter is that this was a Colts offensive line that in the first 8 games of this year gave up 9 sacks. So barely over a sack a game given up by a great Colts O-line. Yesterday, the Steelers had 5, and it was all started by the man who I kind of called out in the last couple of weeks, right? He'd been quiet. He hadn't been making a lot of noise. He hadn't been showing himself to be the second highest paid, defensive end coming into the season. TJ Watt gets to Daniel Jones, ball comes out, Steelers go down, score, then Peyton Wilson gets the pick, and then the Steelers go up. They never lose the lead from there. Is that when you have Watt and Highsmith and Cam Hayward, who batted down some balls of the line of scrimmage. I thought he was great yesterday. When you have Keontae Benton getting the quarterback, even Joey Porter Jr. had a sack yesterday. When you have a defense that says, you know what? Is the Colts passing game scary? Sure it is. Alec Pierce and Tyler Warren, we get it. Number 28 is not going to beat us today. Jonathan Taylor, who is in the MVP race, he will not beat us today. And what did Jonathan Taylor have yesterday? Like 45 yards rushing? Yeah, 14 carries, 45 yards. 3.2 yards a clip. The Steelers said, you will not beat us. Didn't break any long runs. This is a guy who feels like every other week scoring 3 touchdowns. I mean, he's on pace to get the triple crown, to be a triple crown winner at the running back position in terms of carries, yards, and touchdowns. Steelers, and credit where it is due, Mike Tomlin, Terrell Austin, by the way, both of which I still have massive questions about. One game does not fix everything, folks. Got to see more for me to fully buy into the Steelers defense. But the personnel is certainly there, particularly up front, particularly with the depth at pass rush with Watt and Highsmith and Herbig. And in the interior with obviously Cam Hayward and Keontae Benton and Derek Harmon. Like all of these guys the Steelers can throw at you. They have a deep bench in that regard. It was once said, gosh, who was, what GM was it that said? I'm forgetting who it was off the top. I think it might have been, I forget who the GM was, but said basically the 2 steps, obviously easier said than done, to be a successful NFL franchise. Keep your quarterback comfortable, make theirs uncomfortable. Steelers didn't really do the first that well, and haven't done that well in years because they don't develop offensive lines well. But the other, they've aced. TJ Watt is a master at that. And he makes things easier for Alex Highsmith, who's earned his money, and Nick Herbig, who's a good third down pass rusher, and Cam Hayward, who's more of a guy who can blow up the run and bat balls down at the line of scrimmage I think this is year 15 for Cam. So that's the part that I was most impressed with. It's not the turnovers. The turnovers were great. That ain't going to happen every game. I mean, you saw Jacksonville yesterday. Like, Jacksonville's kind of been living off turnovers, but if they're not, Geno Smith can cook you. That's, I mean, that was a lot of us brought Bowers, but different game, obviously. You can't always live off turnovers. Can you get stops? Can you make Daniel Jones' life miserable? And they did. Got to him 5 times. I don't know what the pressure count was, but that was, I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked. Pleasantly shocked yesterday about what I saw from my Steelers. And there's an element of, and that was a must-win game. It was. With Baltimore on your heels, I said on Friday's show, oh my gosh, there'll be a game back of us by the end of the weekend. Because Baltimore's got Lamar back. Maybe the defense is fixed in Baltimore, or at least is better than it was. And the Steelers are going to lose 3 straight, and this is going to be a game separates us after we started 4-1. They started 1-5. Oh my gosh, this is a disaster. And now you sit up here and look today. This is why it's a week-by-week league, this NFL thing. Because as far as I'm concerned, the Steelers, in my opinion, should win their next 2 games. They go to LA to take on the Chargers, who A, don't have a home field advantage. It is going to be like 80% Steelers fans in SoFi. And B, Chargers O-line without Joe Alt is god-awful. This could be a field day for Watt and Highsmith and company. And then the next game probably will be kind of close because it's a divisional matchup and because this team has a high-powered offense, but Cincinnati, who, again, does not believe in defense. You should win those next 2 games and get to 7-3. And then from there, at the Bears, Rodgers has owned the Bears, but this is a different Chicago Bears team than what Aaron's used to. Bills at home, yikes. Ravens on the road, Dolphins at home, that's a win. At the Lions, At the Browns, it's always a tougher game than it should be. That one makes me nervous in late December. And then you finish with the game against the Ravens in a game that could decide the AFC North. So happy today. Good win for my Steelers. Great victory Monday. And TJ Watt talked after the game with Evan Washburn of CBS about how the Steelers were able to make some damage and make some noise against the Colts offense.
Just pinning our ears back, simplifying the game plan, things we talked about all week. Smashing the run obviously helps. Offense did their job today, and we just wanted to go out there and create turnovers, and we did it.
You guys live in your own bubble during the season, but how much do you hear the noise and the critiques of a unit that was pretty prideful coming into this season?
Man, we critique ourselves very hard ourselves, so there's a lot of film that need to be corrected. We didn't need people from the outside telling us. We took plenty of pride in fixing it.
And that's, listen, I have often knocked Tomlin for the fact that he is behind the times, certainly on defensive schemes, but also behind the times is, hey, you can win a championship with your defense being better than your offense. I shouldn't say better, far better than your offense, like 10-1. You can't, not into 2025 NFL. So no, one game, even against the best offense in football, an offense that coming into this week had the record in the 21st century for points per drive. One game does not a fixed defense make. Aaron was efficient, did what he was supposed to do. Running game, I need to see a lot more. Defense, the 6 turnovers were great. Getting to Daniel Jones 5 times, that was what I was impressed with. Watt started it. Highsmith, Benton, Joey Porter coming in and make a play. Those guys finished. And Joey Porter also got the interception at the end that, closed the deal for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, great win for Pittsburgh. There's no other way around it. Great win. That's their first. I said we kind of got lucky against New England, and we did. 5 turnovers, 2 of which were on the goal line. Like, though sometimes the ball just doesn't bounce your way. This was not a lucky win. This was domination at the line of scrimmage on the defensive side of the football, playing efficient offense, playing smart, aside from the Roman Wilson turnover, which he's a kid, he makes mistakes, but you cannot hurdle a guy when you're up multiple scores. Like, don't do that. Happy with what I saw from my Steelers, I got to say. To take the terrible towel off, that was good. That was very, very good. So, game against the Chargers that coming up next weekend. Need to get a win. There's no question about it. All right, let's shift to what was, sometimes you see on the internet, when they talk about a crazy game. I don't know if they still do it anymore. I remember this was like a thing a few years ago. This game was drunk. Yeah, I mean, it was hammered. This was your friend that goes to the sports bar and he has 5 drinks in and he is gone. That's how drunk this game was. Chicago Bears going to Cincinnati and beating the Bengals 47-42 in a game that I gotta admit, I've got I watched the games on YouTube TV, which YouTube TV, please figure out how to deal with ESPN. Like we got to get better at that. But I'm watching on YouTube TV. Got the quad screen on the television. Got the 4 games, the multi-view. And I've got some of the games on my phone, on my laptop, watching all the game. And as we get late into that early window, I've got Bears and Bengals in the top right corner of my screen. And I'm this close to shifting to a different, I don't remember what game it was, but shifting to a different game. Because at this point, Tremaine Edmonds picks off Joe Flacco in the red zone. There's under 3 minutes to go. The Bears are up 2 touchdowns. I'm like, oh, this game's over. It's over. Even if the Bengals score, they're not getting an onside kick. Well, they punt at Cincinnati, bam, score, and they get an onside kick because a Chicago Bear player makes you can't make this mistake. The ball goes off his leg short of 10 yards. Like, dude, you don't have to wait for it to come to you because that can be dangerous too. Just fall on it. Literally just fall on the ground, grab the pigskin, game's over. But nope, you can't do that. Joe Flacco and the Bengals, bam, bam, bam. Touchdown to Yosivas. Bengals are up 1. Next drive, Caleb Williams, who we'll talk about in just a moment, or just a few minutes. A couple of big passes. Horrible tackling on Colston Loveland. Not one guy, but 2 guys on him. And Loveland breaks the tackle, goes the distance for the game-winning touchdown for Chicago. Awful tackling. Phenomenal throw by Caleb Williams. I said this last week, is that, man, on some of the deep balls, Caleb throws them on a rope instead of on an arc. That's something Caleb has struggled with, and that's something he still continues to struggle with and needs to get better at. But on some of these over-the-middle timing plays, he's fantastic. Like that, I think he's top 5 in the league in terms of arm strength. Like, just to fit it in that tight window to Loveland, and then Loveland does the rest. Let's talk Cincinnati first, though, before we get to Chicago. I don't know how Joe Burrow could stay a Bengal after this season. Joe Flacco has come in to Cincinnati in 4 games and has given Joe Burrow-like production. Show the numbers. He's been fantastic. 11 touchdowns, which, by the way, some of these stats in this span lead the league. I'll tell you which. 11 touchdowns leads the league in that span. 64% completion, 313.5 pass yards per game. That leads the league. By the way, he threw for 470 yesterday with a sprained AC joint. He was not healthy and still balled out. 102.8 rating, Bengals lead football since Joe Flacco became a Bengal in points per game. They're scoring 32 points per game. And they are 1-3. And here's a stat for the Bengals defense. The Philadelphia Eagles, New England Patriots, and the Oakland/Los Angeles/Las Vegas Raiders have never lost a game in their collective history in which they've scored 38 points. Never. The Bengals have done that 4 times in the last 2 seasons. And they've done it back-to-back weeks. In fact, there's a stat I saw from Doug Clawson. And by the way, if you don't follow Doug Clawson X, do so. He's a fantastic statistician. The Bengals are the second team in NFL history to lose back-to-back games when scoring 38 or more points in both. Second team to do that first since the 1966 Giants. I know some have gone on Jamar Chase for kind of cursing out his defense, walking to the locker room after the game. Some have gotten on Chase Brown, the running back for the Bengals, who's basically said after the game, man, we did our job. Get a bleep and stop. There's an element where that's kind of true. I would be ripping Flacco if he said it because the fact of the matter is if you're a quarterback, you can't put yourself or your team in that position. You're the leader. You're almost like the president of the offense and of the team. I truly don't know if you're Joe Burrow how you could say with this franchise. Forget the fact, and we can show the numbers. I've kept this stat for segments like this. Forget the fact that most hits taken per game since 2006. Andrew Luck leads. Deshaun Watson's in second. Joe Burrow is in third in terms of hits per game taken since 2006. Forget the fact that the Bengals' O-line is terrible, which Joe Flacco's managed that well, by the way. Is that their offensive line is just, I mean, it's putrid. That their defense is putrid. Keep in mind, this is a franchise with Mike Brown as the owner, who up until recently did not have an indoor practice facility. In Cincinnati, Ohio, did not have an indoor practice facility because he's cheap. Because the Bengals, you pay Joe Burrow, obviously. You pay Jamar Chase, obviously. In most cases, I would say you pay T. Higgins, obviously. That's if T. Higgins is your best wideout. As fantastic. He's not a number 2 receiver. He's a true 1 who happens to be a 2 because he's on the same team as Jamar Chase. He'd be a number 1 in half the league. But because you paid T. Higgins, and because you're, in all likelihood, not going to pay Trey Hendrickson, and because you've let multiple defensive players out the door the last few years, including, by the way, your defensive coordinator who's kind of crushing it with the Indianapolis Colts, coming in yesterday, the Colts sixth in terms of being the 6th-ranked scoring defense in the NFL. Fired him. Let him go. Lou Anarumo was the problem, not your atrocious personnel. You can't even put it into words. I mean, just put up the Flacco graphic again. That's hard to believe. 11 touchdowns, 64% completion, over 300 pass yards, over 100 passer rating. Bengals are scoring 32, almost 33 points per game since Flacco took over. They've won 1 time, 1-3 record. I mean, you can't. I mean, lost back-to-back games which they've given up. Back-to-back games in which they've scored 38 points. And I saw another stat as well. Make sure I get this right. They're the first team in history to allow 27 or more points, and 350 or more total yards in 8 straight games in a season. I mean, you almost can't even process that based on what the offense is producing. So we talk about Dallas is the worst defense of football. I think they've been surpassed. I'm going to predict Dallas Cardinals later. It's going to be a high-scoring game. Dallas's defense is horrible. This one's worse. You gave up 39 points to the Jets, and then 47 to a Bears offense that the week prior scored 16 at Baltimore. Can't happen. As for Chicago, I did predict back in August when there seemed to be some friction, are Ben Johnson, Caleb Williams, are those personalities going to mesh? Is it going to work? What was my prediction coming into the season? Give it around Halloween. This game was 2 days after Halloween. They're going to start to gel. They're going to start to click. Caleb Williams yesterday against the Bengals. And yes, you can say, oh, it's against the Bengals defense. I get that. 3 touchdowns, no picks, 58% completion. Caleb's got to get that completion percentage up. 280 yards, 114 rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 66. That's not necessarily what I care about. It's the fact that how much time's left? 54 seconds for the Chicago Bears. 54 seconds, and they need a field goal, but it's not like Jake Moody's been the most reliable kicker throughout his career. Hit the big kick in Washington, but had a kick blocked yesterday. Is that you can put the ball in number 18's hands. That's not 3 straight times, or not 3 straight, but 3 times this year. Put the ball in 18's hands. He's going to go down and win it. He did it against the Raiders. It was more DeAndre Swift did it against the Commanders, but still, Caleb did what he had to do. And then yesterday, made all the big throws down the stretch. Again, we can talk about the bad tackling on Colston level, and it was bad tackling. For Caleb to fit the ball in the way that he did, few quarterbacks can do that with that kind of arm strength to throw that in a rope. That's where Caleb's at his best. It's just the bam timing throws right down the middle. It's the over the top throwing the ball in an arc instead of on a line throws that he has to improve. But Caleb Williams today is an indisputably better quarterback now than he was a year ago at this time. And that credit goes to Ben Johnson. What also goes to Ben Johnson is the fact that this is a guy who saw an offensive line in Chicago that was horrible. He invested in it. He saw a receiving core that was good. He made it better in free agency and in the draft. He's invested in the running game. Like Chicago has a bad defense. A lot of that's defensive injuries. But Ben Johnson understands from his time in Detroit, you needed good defense. That's what's cost the Lions. Cost them yesterday to a degree. If you can't outscore teams any given Sunday, you're just not going to reach that next level of contenders. And I don't think the Bears are contenders. But they're tied in the win column with both Detroit and Green Bay in the NFC North. I don't think they're going to win the division. It's not out of the question. We're in November. They're tied with Green Bay and Detroit in terms of wins. So, very impressive. You've seen a growth from Caleb. You've seen, this kid, Kyle Manunjai, yesterday with the Bears, just making big-time runs. The Bears had almost 300 yards rushing yesterday. And again, I get it. The Bengals are horrible defensively. But to be that good situationally, not once, not twice, but 3 times, shows a growth in the quarterback, shows a trust in the coach. They're figuring it out. And I said around this time of the year, they would start to. Big time win for the Chicago Bears. Who do they have next week? Chicago in week 10 has the Giants at home. They should win that game. And you could be sitting up here looking at a Bears team that's 6-3 and something else too. Like we talked about the clutch gene. Forget just the fact that Caleb came up big just in that moment, in a vacuum. Down 1, go down, you end up getting a touchdown. It's how the game played out before that. It's the fact that, wait a second, you were up 14 with the ball under 3 minutes to go. All of a sudden, you're down 1 with under a minute. What the heck just happened? Caleb was calm. Caleb was poised. Caleb made all the big throws when he had to. The big knock on Caleb has been, when his temperament is reliant on the circumstances around him. Not in this spot. Not against the Raiders. Not against Washington. Shows a big-time growth from that quarterback, and he talked about it after the game.
I've said it in multiple games now. This has been the only way that we really haven't won. And that's an explosive offense over there. They got great guys on all sides of the ball, obviously, kickoff returns, all of those things. And so this is the one way, like I said, that we haven't won was a shootout. We wanted to prove it to the world. We wanted to prove it to everybody. We wanted to prove it to ourselves. Most importantly, we come out with the win that we did today.
Let's shift to the Chicago Bears' biggest rival in the NFC North, and that would, of course, be the Green Bay Packers. As Cheesehead Ozzy makes an appearance once again on the show. It's been a long time. It has been a while since I've been here ready to roll. But the Green Bay Packers, as a 13.5-point favorite against Carolina Panthers. I got a lot of picks wrong this weekend. I told you on Friday, 13.5 too many points. It's a letdown game after a big win on the road against Pittsburgh. Right, Carolina. Oh, sorry, old Carolina. Bryce Young's back. Bryce Young wasn't that good, but it was a dangerous spot for Green Bay. And not to mention, those uniforms. Let's talk about those first before we get into the game. Because if I remember correctly, the great, the legend, primetime Deion Sanders, greatest cornerback of all time. Wasn't it Deion that said, if you look good, you feel good, you play good. The Packers darn sure didn't look good. The helmets were not bad. I wasn't necessarily against the helmets that resembled the leather ones that they wore 100 years ago. Those were fine. I wasn't against those. Neck down, shoulders down. I don't know what that was. You know, a good friend of my sister often jokes the Packers uniforms look like they're wearing John Deere. Accurate. But that's their brand. That's what they look like. I don't get that imposter off the field. Those aren't the Packers uniforms. So they didn't look good. That's for darn sure. So they probably didn't feel good, and that's why they didn't play good. Maybe it's as simple as the ugly uniforms. Get them out of here. But I said a couple months ago when they made the trade for Micah Parsons, and safe to say that has more than paid dividends. If not for Micah Parsons, Packers are a 500 football team today. Because he saved him against Dallas by sacking Dak when Dak was going to run it in the end zone for the go-ahead touchdown on OT. And he really saved them against the Cardinals with not one, not two, but 3 sacks, including the 3rd sack being when the Cardinals are probably about to go win the game themselves. Micah saves the game. And Micah gave Aaron Rodgers hell last week against my Pittsburgh Steelers. Is that if the Green Bay Packers made this decision to trade for Micah, I try to keep this freaking cheese on my head. It's more difficult than it looks, trust me, folks. Trust me, look, it's difficult. Is that if they made the move for Micah Parsons, it means that they trust Jordan Love to develop into being an elite quarterback, which he was in the second half of 2023. And he has shown the ability in spurts this year. In moments against Detroit, second half against my Steelers, 4th quarter drive against Arizona. We've seen it in moments from Jordan Love. But both of the Packers' losses this year fall squarely on his shoulders. Because in both of those games, the Packers' defense gave up 13 against the Browns, and the touchdown that the Browns did score came on a drive off a Jordan Love interception, by the way, that started inside the 10. Tough spot to put your defense in. Yesterday, they gave up 16 to Carolina. The touchdown the Panthers scored came off a Jordan Love pick, which was returned inside the Green Bay 40. Packers defense was fantastic. Didn't do a great job stopping the run Rico Dowdle. Rico Dowdle's been doing that to everybody. He did it to Miami, he did it to Dallas, did it to Green Bay. He does it to everybody. And you can't muster more than 13 points. Buffalo scored 40 last week. We've seen Carolina's defense got, so to speak, throughout many points this season. And I know Tucker Kraft goes down with an injury. And God bless him, knock on wood. He blows his ACL. Hopefully he's, recovers quickly in his back next year doing what he was doing this year because he was playing best football of his career. And I know Jaden Reed's out, but for crying out loud, O-line's fantastic. Josh Jacobs is great. You still got Romeo Doubs. Still got Matthew Golden, although Matthew Golden has not been as good as I thought he'd be thus far out of college. Maybe we'll see if he continues to grow and develop. Luke Musgrave is still a darn good tight end. Matt LaFleur's an excellent coach. You just didn't make the throws. The 4th down, I don't know what Jordan Love was attempting to do in that play, but it wasn't good. There are times it feels like he doesn't see the field well. There's 1 or 2 times a game where he throws a "what the F are you doing" type of throws. And so if you're a Packers fan today, be honest with yourself. Because Green Bay is going to make the playoffs. They're too talented not to. Whether they'll win the division, only time will tell. But I've said all year long, since that week 3 game against Cleveland to now, with the exception of the game against Pittsburgh, is, this is why I truly despise power rankings. Because power rankings says, hey, let's just go on best record, rank the best teams based on what their record is, and just go down from there. It's uncreative, and it shows me you didn't watch the games. But for Green Bay, this is a team that's been living on the edge for weeks now. This is a team that has not played a start-to-finish great football game, with the exception of Pittsburgh, since week 2 against Washington. By the way, how's Washington look now? Week 3, lose to the Browns. Really, not really. It was entirely because of the offense. Week 4, they tie Dallas. You're better than Dallas. You should win that game. Right? They kind of eke out a win against Cincinnati, and that was Joe Flacco's first start with the Bengals, by the way. It was Joe Flacco's worst game today as a Bengal. Closer game than it should have been at Lambeau off of a bye. You survive Arizona by the skin of your teeth, if not for Micah Parsons saving the day. You play great against Pittsburgh. And you score 13 points at home against the Carolina Panthers, a team that just gave up 40 the week prior to the Buffalo Bills. So, if you're a Packers fan, be honest with yourself today, because I think you're going to make the playoffs. What's the most likely way for you to get bounced? What's the most likely reason that you get bounced in the postseason in 2025? Can be the defense. I mean, the defense has given up a combined 29 points in their 2 losses this season. And by the way, the 2 touchdowns that the Browns and Panthers scored, one of which happened inside in the red zone, drive started in the red zone, the other of which started inside the Green Bay 40. So the defense has more than done their job this season. Micah Parsons has been worth every penny that the Packers gave him. Quarterback's got to step up. And he's shown the ability to in moments. And in others, that decision-making is still suspect. So, Packers, y'all might be in some trouble. I hate to say it. Really, it breaks my heart to say it. But y'all might be in some trouble. So there's that. All right. Before we go to break, I want to talk the Sunday night game, Seattle and Washington, real quick. 38-14, Seattle wins this game. I was dead wrong. I picked the Commanders, and I knew I was wrong by the by the second drive of the game. It was a disaster. First of all, on the Jaden Daniels front, because that's kind of been the main story from the game, I had a bigger takeaway, but on Jaden Daniels. So there's the gruesome injury where he's sliding. He's still in the game. It's 38-7. Seattle, midway through the fourth quarter, the game is obviously well out of reach. And Jaden Daniels is sliding. His left arm gets caught on the grass on the tackle, and it breaks. I mean, it straight does. Dislocated his elbow. Came out of the game, obviously left, I believe, in a cast or a brace or whatever. And whether he's out for the season remains to be seen. I imagine he will, just because of the fact that he's dealt with multiple injuries with the hamstring and the knee. Gets dealt, like he's dealt with a number of injuries. And Washington's 3-6, well out of the playoff picture in the NFC. And given their schedule moving forward, they got to play Detroit, and they got to play Denver and Minnesota and the Eagles and the Cowboys and the Eagles again. Like, they're done. Their season is over. So I don't think Jaden Daniels is coming back in 2025. Was that quarterback malpractice by Dan Quinn? Obviously it was. There's no question about it. Like, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And Dan Quinn basically said as much after the game. He's like, yeah, I'd like to have that one back. Like, that should have been Marcus Mariota in that spot. Obviously, you don't want Marcus to suffer a similar injury or any injury. But you haven't paid Jaden Daniels that, but you might as well have. That's your franchise quarterback. That's the guy who took you to an NFC title game last year with a less than ideal roster. Certainly a terrible defense. So that's the Washington front. Of course, Jaden Daniels shouldn't have been in. On the Seattle front, I've said this for about a month now. We've got to acknowledge that Sam Darnold is an elite quarterback. He just is. Show his numbers since the start of last season in Minnesota, and then we'll show what he did last night. 52 touchdowns to 18 picks. That's pretty good. 67% completion. That's excellent. 255 yards per game. Passer rating of 104. And the man has a 20-6 record. Last year it was Kevin O'Connell and Justin Jefferson and Addison and Hawkinson and Aaron Jones and a great O-line. Certainly those contributed. Don't get me wrong. But, and I said this last year, ironically, it was a game against Seattle. I think it was week 16, if I remember correctly. Minnesota going to Seattle. He makes a throw on the run down the left sideline to Justin Jefferson. I'm like, holy crap. Like, that's not a system quarterback throw. That was USC Sam Darnold, 3rd overall pick in the draft in 2018, Sam Darnold. That the Jets, because the Jets can't get anything right, especially quarterback, couldn't develop. He didn't look great in Carolina. Few do. Goes to quarterback rehabilitation school with the San Francisco 49ers. Goes to Minnesota. J.J. McCarthy was fine yesterday. He was fine, but I think Vikings fans were like, gosh, darn it, we missed our franchise quarterback there. And he's been crushing at Seattle. In the first half, he was literally perfect. Literally perfect. And played one of the greatest first halves in NFL history by quarterback. 4 touchdowns, no picks, 100% completion, 16 for 16, 282 yards. Again, this is the first half. Perfect passer rating, obviously, 158.3. Seattle scored 31, and Sam Darnold became the first quarterback in the last 35 years with a 100% completion percentage, 250 passing yards, and 4 touchdowns in a half. Now, some of that is that Washington's defense is horrible. I saw a stat. This is also from, again, Doug Clawson. If you don't follow him on on Twitter. He's fantastic. If I could pull this up here. Okay, so this is the stat that Doug brought up. Is that, do we have it? Okay. Mahomes in the second half against Washington. Darnold in the first half against Washington. So that's a 4-quarter game. If you combine their stats, 33 for 35 for 492 yards, 7 touchdowns, no pick. That's the last 4 quarters for the Washington defense from the second half against Kansas City and the first half against Seattle. So they're bad. So that's some of it. And some of it is, man, Sam's been in multiple systems now. Kevin O'Connell, now Clint Kubiak in Seattle. He's making the throws. Listen, Jackson Smith and Jigba, matchup nightmare. But there was no Cooper Kupp last night. And as much as I like the kid, Arroyo and some of the guys I got there, they really don't have a number 2 receiver outside of Cooper Kupp that you trust consistently. It's really JSN. And a great defense and a great defensive line the Seahawks have. But that guy's the lead singer in this band. He is. So I was blown away by what I saw from Sam Darnold yesterday. The deep throws, intermediate stuff. Accuracy, of course, was off the charts. He was 16 for 16. On the money, the whole bit. 4 touchdowns. And again, we've got a year and a half of evidence of him doing this. I kept saying last year, I'm waiting for Sam Darnold, so we're back on Sam Darnold. That was a recurring theme on my show. And then that game against Seattle, I'm like, okay, that's the real Sam Darnold, not the imposter that looked bad for the Jets. And players get better. Players develop. Players need to go, unless you are Peyton Manning, basically, or to a degree, Tom Brady, who went to a situation in New England that wasn't as good as some people like to make it. It matters where you go. It does. And if Sam Darnold goes to the Jets, or if Baker Mayfield goes to the Browns, and Baker was more successful in Cleveland than Sam was with the Jets, but Baker still has some real kind of flaws that were exposed in Cleveland that have not been exposed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They found a way to develop him into being an elite player, and so is Sam Darnold. He was in the MVP discussion last year. Put him in it this year. He's earned it. And by the way, Seattle, I think it's fair to say, they can win multiple playoff games in the NFC. They can. I mean, look up and down. Let's look at the NFC standings today. Let's look at the NFC standings today, if I can pull this up here. The 1 seed is Philadelphia. Now, I think Philadelphia is the favorite in that conference. If their defense can get fixed, and if Saquon continues to do what he does, they're the favorites. Tampa Bay, I don't really trust their defense, and their receiving core is beat up. Seattle, you got Seattle. Green Bay, man, you have no clue what Green Bay team you're getting week to week. You have no clue what Jordan Love you're getting week to week. The Rams are excellent. I'll talk about the Rams when I do my week 9 recap. Niners are beat to hell. Detroit Lions defense it's always going to be the weakness of this team. Go down the list, then you get Chicago, Carolina, Minnesota, Dallas. Then you get to the teams that could make the playoffs but aren't Super Bowl contenders. Are we looking at a world where the Sam Darnold Seattle Seahawks are in the NFC Championship game? Who knows? Maybe. With that D-line dominating the way they do, Leonard Williams, who's had an amazing season, was giving Jaden Daniels fits last night, and Sam Darnold doing his thing? Sure they could. Absolutely sure they could. They're a true legit threat in the NFC. And Patrick Brown, 2 straight weeks where head coaches pull off malpractice and sacrifice their quarterbacks. Carson Wentz last week for the Vikings had no business being in that game. And then this week with Dan Quinn leaving, I should say, Jaden Daniels. And that was a gruesome injury. That was bad. Hopefully Jaden Daniels heals quickly. But I know that was everybody's main takeaway. I couldn't get over Sam Darnold last night. That was awesome what he was able to pull off for the Seattle Seahawks. Be back after a 1-minute break. When we come back, week 9 recap for the other games that I did not talk about. Kind of give a quick sort of rehashing what happened. I've got to take on the Denver Broncos that I'll get into once we get to that game against the Houston Texans. And at the end of the show, we got the Cardinals, we got the Cowboys, Monday Night Football. Predict that game in just 1 minute on Carving Up Live. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So, of course, we got to do our Week 9 recap around the National Football League for the games that I did not, dedicate entire segments to. So let's talk about Falcons and Patriots. New England wins 24-23 in a game that should have been 24-all, but a missed extra point by Atlanta. For the Atlanta side, Drake London was, and New England couldn't cover him straight up. He had 3 touchdowns in the game. How many yards did he have? 118 yards, 9 catches, the 3 touchdowns. I thought Michael Penix Jr. was really solid given the defense he was playing. I will say, because Drake May has been fantastic, and we're about to show an insane Drake May stat in just a second. I'm seeing a disturbing trend, at least in the last 2 weeks. Maybe it's a small sample size. I don't know. New England's offensive line is not great. So the 5 sacks against Myles Garrett, some of that's just Myles Garrett's a freak, and he's a future first ballot Hall of Famer. He's going to Canton, Ohio, not far from Cleveland. I know Atlanta's got a good D-line, and they've developed it, and they've invested in the draft. James Pierce, the Patriots gave up 6 sacks yesterday. So Drake May is having to be under duress more. I feel like Josh McDaniels isn't necessarily committing to, not committing to the run, not committing to TreVeyon Henderson more than he is, which in a way, those limitations up front kind of bolster Drake May's MVP case. And I'm going to do an MVP ladder on Wednesday's show, but this is stat. I showed a Dak Prescott stat 2 weeks ago that was like mind-blowing. He was playing MVP football. Here's a Drake May stat that's showing he's playing literally at the level that only MVP quarterbacks have ever played. Show the stat. Most consecutive games with 200 or more pass yards and a 100 or better rating. Most consecutive games. Aaron Rodgers did it 12 times in a row in 2011, which is insane. He won MVP that year. Drake May's done it 8 straight times this year. The other 3 have done it 8 straight times, were Aaron in 2020, won MVP. Brady in 07, won MVP. Peyton in 04, won MVP. Mahomes did it 7 times in 2018. He won MVP. This guy's playing MVP football. Been efficient. Again, take out the first game against the Raiders. He's at a passer rating over 100 in every single game. And by the way, New England's receiving core. Pop Douglas, Stephon Diggs making plays. He had Cardi B in attendance, sitting next to Bob Kraft yesterday. That was dope. Stephon Diggs doing his thing. You still got Keyshawn Booty, Hunter Henry. Receiving core is not bad. I think what's going to end up getting New England beat in the postseason, because they're going to be in the playoffs because their schedule is just a cakewalk the rest of the way. I don't know if they're going to be able to protect Drake May consistently. If you're going to go against the Buffalo Bills in the playoffs, and we know how great Buffalo's D-line is, at least what they showed yesterday against Kansas City. I think the Chiefs are going to add a defensive lineman at the deadline tomorrow. If they don't, that changes things. Pittsburgh's D-line, that's the strength of their football team. So in the postseason, that could be a concern. Indianapolis can get to the quarterback. So that's a bit of a concern for the Patriots, but hey, nonetheless, good win. Never apologize for winning the NFL 6 straight. Here's a team that I'm officially writing off as a Super Bowl contender. And I'm going to do it for a second team in a few minutes, but the Los Angeles Chargers. They beat the Titans 27-20. I'm not writing them off because the game was close against Tennessee. I'm not writing them off because it was Tennessee had the lead in the first half and Chargers kind of rolled from there. It's the fact that it just sucks to hear this news. As was reported a couple of hours ago, Joe Alt, who got hurt in this game, out for the year with an ankle injury. And that's the same ankle that he hurt back in, I think that was week 4 against the New York Giants. So he'd already been dealing with the injury. The Chargers were horrible up front on their offensive line. Comes back. They look great again. Justin Herbert's out here throwing dots against a Brian Flores coach defense on Thursday Night Football in a short week against Minnesota. Joe Alt goes down, and down goes the Chargers' Super Bowl hopes. Jim Harbaugh announced today that Amari Hampton is not expected to be back until at least after the Week 12 bye for the Chargers. And Amari Hampton, he was my Office Rookie of the Year pick coming into the season, they're cooked. They are. Herbert has had protection issues up front. Obviously, Rashawn Slater got hurt before the season started. Joe Alt was still there. The O-line looks fine. He got hurt. O-line looked terrible. Now he came back. Now the O-line looks terrible again. And I got to admit to y'all, I think they're out of the postseason this year. I really, really do. Because if you look at the AFC playoff picture, which is stacked, by the way, it's night and day from the NFC. AFC playoff pictures. You got the 4 division winners. Wild card teams as of now. Buffalo at 6-2. Chargers right now at 6-3. Jags are 5-3. Then you got the Chiefs. By the way, you still got the Ravens down there. Those are, and Houston's offense doesn't work. So I'm going to take Houston out. But Jacksonville ain't better than the Chargers. Kansas City is better than the Chargers, certainly with Joe All out. And Baltimore might very well be better than the Los Angeles Chargers with Lamar Jackson back. So despite the 6-3 start, folks, I think they're going to end up missing the playoffs. I really do. And my big thing has been, okay, can Justin Herbert win a playoff game? I'm not so sure we're going to see that this year. Because he's just not going to have time to, spread the ball to McConkey and Quentin Johnson, the tight ends. Really, really unfortunate for Joe All, who is just an athletic freak. I loved him out of Notre Dame last year and had a great rookie season. Was playing great this year, but injuries got in the way. Who's the next game we got up next? Already talked Bears, Bengals, Niners, and Giants. If Kyle Shanahan is the coach of the year, I don't know who is. Respect to Steichen, respect to Mike Vrabel, respect to Ben Johnson, all of which are worthy candidates. This team being 6-3 is nothing short of a miracle. Bosa gone for the year. Warner gone for the year. That's just on the defense. And I think they just lost a pass rusher yesterday for the year. Ayuk hasn't played a snap. Pearsall's been there in a month. Purdy's played 2 games. The O-line's not great. Mac Jones is your quarterback. And you're 6-3. And a lot of that is because they have a guy who, again, you're going to see Bryson's MVP ladder on Wednesday. I mean, the segment, I did this starting 2 weeks ago. I'm going to do it every other week. Christian McCaffrey's going to be high up on the list. Christian McCaffrey, we've seen guys have 1,000-yard rushing, 1,000-yard receiving seasons. We've never had somebody go 1,100 yards rushing, 1,100 yards receiving. Christian McCaffrey's on pace to do that this year. To be a guy who everybody that you face, the whole defense that you face every single week knows you're the only guy that can beat us. Kittle's back, but Kittle's still working his way back from injury. Juwan Jennings did catch a touchdown. He was effective, but the O-line's not great. No Brandon Ayuk, no Ricky Pearsall, who was looking fantastic before his injury. You're the only guy that can kill us. And he still does it every single week. I feel like he had almost half their yards basically yesterday. So Shanahan's the coach of the year. McCaffrey, along with Jonathan Taylor, they're both in the running for Offensive Player of the Year. McCaffrey's in the MVP discussion as far as I'm concerned. The fact they're 6-3 is a miracle. Next game. Okay, I wanted to give a take on this. Broncos-Texans. Denver wins 18-15 in a defensive battle over Houston. C.J. Stroud with a brutal concussion early in the game. Davis Mills comes in, and the Broncos still survived by a walk-off field goal. I'm going to go ahead and say this as soon as I pull up the stat because it's very telling on the Denver Broncos from Doug Clawson, is the fact that Denver this year, down 8 points in the fourth quarter, 8 or more points in the fourth quarter. They're 3-0 this season. They came back to beat Philly, made a crazy comeback to beat the Giants, came back to beat the Houston Texans. Down 15-7. They score 11 unanswered to win. They're 3-0 in those games. Every other team, 3-52. By the way, that's since week 5. So week 5 on, down 8 points or more in the fourth quarter. Denver's 3-0. Everybody else is 3-52. We saw it with my Steelers in 2020, the Cardinals in 2021, the Vikings in 2022. All of which, by the way, had excellent rosters. Some of which had excellent coaches. Which both can be said about this Broncos team. They're not a Super Bowl contender. You cannot continue to live on the edge like this and make it so you consider. Well, what about the Chiefs? You mean last year's 2-time defending Super Bowl champions that, by the way, ended up getting back to the Super Bowl and were 15-2 in the regular season? Broncos going to win out and go 15-2? No. And Bo Nix yesterday, listen, I know the Texans defense is fantastic. 18 of 37. Made the clutch plays late, and Bo Nix has been clutch against Philly, against the Giants, against Houston. I've said it all year. That D-ball's not good. It's straight up like he overthrows guys, he misses guys. We can talk about the fact that Denver probably needs an extra receiver to go with Sutton and Mims. This guy's missing some routine stuff. And if you had to ask somebody, best quarterback from the 2024 class, Drake May gets it. And I think at this point, it's a battle between Daniels and Caleb. Both, to me, are miles better than Bo Nix, who's mobile, to his credit, but his accuracy is really hit or miss. So I'm here to tell you today, despite the 7-2 record, I'm out on the Broncos as a contender. And I was high on this team coming into the year. I said they go 12-5. They very well might still go 12-5. The roster's great. The defense is outrageously good. They can't keep surviving like this and me say, oh, they can win 3-4 playoff games in a row. Can't see it. Vikings didn't do it in 22. Steelers didn't do it in 2020. Cardinals didn't do it in 2021. Don't buy them. Next, Vikings and Lions. This one shocked me. 27-24, Minnesota beating Detroit. J.J. McCarthy was fine. I should say fine. Was pretty good in the first two drives of the game. Both leading to touchdowns for Minnesota. Was okay from there. Yeah, I'm watching the Vikings. And Kevin O'Connell, y'all are going to like this comparison. Kevin O'Connell is doing like a Robin Williams impression. You're like, what the heck does that even mean? Sit back. Robin Williams, God rest his soul, one of the greatest, if not the greatest comedian of all time. Legend, we all know. Robin Williams was known for the improvisation. But early on, first half of a comedy routine, that was all scripted. That was all pre-planned ahead of time. Then, he tests what works in the comedy clubs. He writes some stuff, consults with with Billy Crystal and Whoopi Goldberg, what works. Then he puts it all out on tape. Then he puts it out on the stage at a comedy event, at a show. The rest is improvisation. The rest is seeing what works, seeing the flow of the offense. Think about football. Seeing the flow of the audience, getting a feel for kind of where they're at. Then the great Robin Williams kicks in. It's improvisation. Kevin O'Connell's first 15 plays, as any great play caller, it's all improvisation. Or I shouldn't say it's all improvisation. It's all scripted. The rest is improvisation. Getting this team to a row win at Detroit, and some of this, by the way, is Brian Flores, who did an amazing job yesterday. Held the Lions' running game completely in check. To win a game in which J.J. McCarthy is a virtual no-show after the first two drives of the game. When your defense is playing great, but aside from the first two drives of the game, your offense is a virtual no-show, aside from turnovers that get you into scoring position. That was remarkable. And I still don't buy J.J. McCarthy. I still think he is far and away the worst quarterback from the 2024 class, as I thought coming in. Good win by the Vikings over the Detroit Lions. There's no question about that. Panthers, Packers, talked about that. Jags and Raiders. Wild game in the afternoon window. Goes to overtime. Raiders go for two. Don't get it. Geno misses. I think it was Trey Tucker in the back of the end zone. Brock Bowers, the man amongst boys. 12 catches, $127, 3 touchdowns. Came back and looks like the best tight end in football that he is. He is unbelievable. If they could just get him consistent quarterback play and a lot of things with the Raiders. He could be on people's televisions more. But Trevor Lawrence, my guy. Not a perfect game by any stretch, but no Travis Hunter. Brian Thomas Jr. was injured in this game. Steps up, 4th and goal, reaches the bad boy over the top for a touchdown, wins the game for the Jaguars in overtime. Love to see it. Trevor Lawrence, baby. 5-3 of the Jags, putting themselves in position, still within reach of the Indianapolis Colts for the AFC South. Crazier things have happened. And then finally, and then we'll get to Cardinals Cowboys prediction. Saints and Rams. Listen, the Rams blowing out the Saints is not shocking at all. We talk about guys in the MVP race, Stafford and Christian McCaffrey and guys like that. Put Matthew Stafford's name into the mix. NFL season is 17 games. In Matthew Stafford's last 17 games, so this is all of this year, this is all of last year's playoffs, so against Minnesota and against Philadelphia, and then the remaining games from last year's regular season. Last 17 games, this is what Matthew Stafford has done. He's been literally perfect. 36 touchdowns to 3 picks. That is an unheard of 12-1 TD to INT ratio. 245 yards a game, 65% completion, 109 rating. He's 13-4 in that span. Put him in the MVP discussion. By the way, the 5 red zone trips, last 5 red zone targets from Stafford, Devontae Adams, touchdown, 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 touchdown. So they've developed a real rapport. We know Puka Nacua is a freak at wide receiver. So we talk about the contenders in the NFC. The Rams don't get quite as much press as Philadelphia and against some of the NFC North teams and as Tampa Bay. This team's more than within the Super Bowl discussion. They got a big game this weekend coming up against the San Francisco 49ers, a team that they've kind of routinely struggled against. That's in Santa Clara as well. Rams, after the way they lost on Thursday Night Football about a month ago, they need to put themselves in position to win this game. And Stafford, again, has been magic this season. There's no looking passes. It's just classic Matthew Stafford. Again, the man had an injury before the season and looks absolutely fantastic. All right, before we get out of here, we just got a trade in the NFL. Draymond Jones has been traded by the Tennessee Titans to the Baltimore Ravens. So there you go. Draymond Jones, who's a solid pass rusher. The Ravens needed help in that regard. By the way, Jalen Phillips, really good pass rusher, was traded by Miami to Philadelphia today. So we got the deadline in. It's 7:37 now. So we got, 20 and a half hours before the deadline. So expect more deals. Jerry Jones said to Stephen A. Smith, he's already made one. He might make two more. So we'll see. Speaking of Jerry Jones, Cowboys hosting the Arizona Cardinals. Dallas is a 3.5-point favorite. I'm not going to lie. I went back and forth in this game, depending on whether Kyler Murray was going to play. Because famously, Kyler Murray, Texas high school legend, has never lost a game at AT&T Stadium. Never lost in high school, never lost in college, undefeated in the NFL. He always wins at AT&T Stadium. He always plays well against the Cowboys. I still think with Jacoby Brissett in the lineup, who's a solid backup, has played decent football for Arizona. With the weapons, Trey McBride, criminally underrated tight end. Again, because the Cardinals are a national brand, we don't talk about Trey McBride as much as we do Kittle and Kelsey and Laporta, and he's absolutely in that class. And Marvin Harrison Jr., who's gotten better over the course of the last few weeks. The Cardinals have been able to run the ball relatively effectively given their injuries. They've invested in the defensive side of the ball. Jonathan Gann is a defensive coach. So this is going to be more of a challenge for the Cowboys, and people are giving it credit for it. And the line is reflecting that at 3.5. But on the Dallas side, given the tough games they have left, they got to play Philly. They got to play Kansas City. They got to play Detroit. Like they got some, Minnesota. They got some tough games the rest of the year. This is one of those you got to get. You got to get one at home. The Cowboys have yet to lose a game at home this season. They did tie the Packers, but they haven't lost. High-scoring game. I'm going to take Dallas to win 31-26 over the Arizona Cardinals. I think Cowboys win. I think Dak has a big-time, bounce-back performance after a rough outing against the Denver Broncos last week. So give me the Cowboys 31-26 over the Arizona Cardinals. And that is it for today's episode of Carving Up Live. Be sure to check out Carving Up on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Instagram, and on Facebook. Again, loaded show. We'll talk Cowboys, Cardinals, whatever else is going on in sports. Carving Up the Context is going to be a dandy, because we're going to be merging Carving Up the Context with the Vol View. And we don't ever do the Vol View on a Wednesday. Making a special exception today, or on Wednesday. So do not miss that. Have a great week, everybody. Stay safe out there. Also, be sure, before we get out of here, be sure to go subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, right here on YouTube, as well as any and everywhere that you get your favorite podcast. Amazing content creators. We also got another show I'm a part of on the Grid, the Saturday Morning Tailgate, which airs every Saturday at 10 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Pacific time. Myself, Tim Barnard, Arthur Hurst will get you kicked off for your college football Saturday. As we get down the stretch, tomorrow the college football playoff rankings come out. First college football playoff rankings of the year. I'm sure we'll talk plenty about that on Saturday's show, so definitely stay tuned for that, as well as for our social media clips on the Grid YouTube channel. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Carving Up Live, and follow me right there on Instagram, X, TikTok. Subscribe to the Grid, subscribe to my channel, Carving It Up with Bryson Carver, trying to grow the channel each and every single day, and we appreciate your support more than you know. We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. I hope the Steelers is back. Maybe. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.